The transport shuttle rattled as it docked with Station Taurus 9. Owen Hayes pressed his face against the small window and watched the massive military complex grow larger. Dozens of other shuttles moved like insects around the structure, each one carrying fresh recruits from across the galaxy. This would be his home for the next 3 months. The airlock hissed open. Owen grabbed his bag and followed the line of nervous aliens into the receiving bay. A Kyrian in front of him kept adjusting all 4 of his arms, chittering anxiously. Behind him, a Saltine was breathing through some kind of apparatus that bubbled purple liquid. Everyone looked terrified. "Move it," a voice boomed across the bay. "You have exactly 2 minutes to form ranks before I start writing names." The source of the voice stood at the far end of the bay. He was enormous, at least 7 feet tall, with dark green scales that caught the harsh overhead lights. His amber eyes swept across the crowd like weapons scanners. The uniform he wore was dark blue, crisp and perfect, with enough medals and rank insignia to make Owen's head spin. "I am Gunnery Sergeant Braun," the massive Horvathi announced. His voice echoed off the metal walls. "For the next 12 weeks I own you. Your families don't own you. Your homeworlds don't own you. I do. Is that clear?" A weak chorus of responses came back. I said, "Is that clear?" "Yes, Sergeant," this time everyone shouted. Owen found his place in the formation. The Kyrian next to him was shaking so badly his exoskeleton clicked. On his other side, a young Horvathi who couldn't have been more than 18 cycles old was sweating through his scales. Braun walked down the line, inspecting each recruit with those terrible amber eyes. He stopped in front of a small Felnar who barely reached his chest. "What's your name, recruit?" "P. Private Torvin, Sergeant." "You look scared, Torvin. Are you scared?" "No, Sergeant." "Liar." Braun moved on. He stopped in front of Owen. For a long moment those amber eyes bored into him. Owen stood straight and met his gaze. Something flickered across Braun's face. Surprise maybe, or annoyance. "Name?" "Private Owen Hayes, Sergeant." "You're human." "Yes, Sergeant." Braun leaned closer. "You know what we do to recruits who think they're special, Hayes?" "No, Sergeant." "We break them." Braun straightened up and addressed the whole formation again. "This facility operates at 1.6 times standard gravity. That's 0.6 higher than most of your homeworlds. Some of you will wash out in the first week. Some of you will need medical assistance just to walk. But by the time you leave here, you will be warriors worthy of the Galactic Coalition. Or you will be nothing." A holographic display appeared on the wall behind him. The number 1.6G glowed in red letters. "Gravity adjustment in 10 seconds. Brace yourselves." Owen felt it immediately. The air seemed to get thicker. His uniform felt heavier against his shoulders. Around him, recruits gasped and staggered. The Kyrian beside him dropped to 3 arms, using them for support. The young Horvatha's legs trembled. Several recruits in the back rows simply collapsed. Owen shifted his weight slightly and kept standing. It felt heavy, sure, like wearing a weighted vest during morning runs back home, but not unbearable, not even close to what he'd grown up with. Braun's eyes snapped to him. "Hayes, you find this amusing." "No, Sergeant." "Then why aren't you struggling like everyone else?" "I don't know, Sergeant." That was true enough. Owen genuinely didn't understand why everyone looked so miserable. The gravity felt perfectly manageable, maybe a bit uncomfortable, like tight boots, but these aliens were acting like they'd been hit by a truck. "Drop and give me 50 push-ups, Hayes, right now." Owen dropped. The metal floor was cold against his palms. He started counting off push-ups. His arms burned a little, but the motion came naturally. Around him, other recruits were still adjusting to just standing upright. 48, 49, 50. Owen jumped back to attention. Braun stared at him. The silence stretched out. Finally, the drill sergeant turned away. "The rest of you have 5 minutes to get to the barracks. Anyone not in their bunk when time expires will run the obstacle course. In this gravity, right now, move. The formation exploded into chaos. Recruits stumbled and crashed into each other, struggling toward the exit. Owen picked up his bag and walked normally. He had to slow down to avoid trampling the saltine in front of him, who was crawling on all 6 limbs. The barracks were exactly what Owen expected. Long rows of bunks, metal lockers, dim lighting. He found his assigned space and started unpacking. The Horvathi recruit from earlier collapsed onto the bunk across from him. "How are you doing that?" the alien asked between gasps. "Doing what?" "Walking, standing, existing." His green scales had gone pale. "This gravity is crushing me." Owen shrugged. "Just feels heavy, not terrible." "Not terrible," the Horvathi laughed, which turned into a cough. "I'm from a point 8G world. This is more than double what my body's designed for. What about you?" "GJ1214C, Owen said. The Horvathi's eyes widened. "The mining planet, that's a 2.3G world." "Yeah. So this must feel like nothing to you." Owen considered that. Back home, he'd worked 12-hour shifts in the deep mines where gravity pulled even harder. His father used to say that weak bones meant death in their line of work. Every human on GJ1214C grew up strong or didn't grow up at all. "I guess so," Owen said. The Horvathi shook his head in disbelief. "I'm Drax, by the way." "Owen." "Well, Owen, I think you just made an enemy. Braun doesn't like recruits who make him look bad, and you just made him look very bad." Through the window, Owen could see the drill sergeant's office across the courtyard. The lights were on. A massive silhouette paced back and forth behind the glass. "I wasn't trying to," Owen said quietly. "Doesn't matter. That human strength everyone talks about. Braun's going to test it until it breaks, or until you do." Owen lay back on his bunk and stared at the ceiling. The gravity pressed him down into the thin mattress. It felt almost comfortable, familiar, like home. Outside, Braun was still packing, still watching. The real training hadn't even started yet. 3 days into training, and Owen had learned an important lesson. Drill sergeants were creative when they wanted to make someone suffer. Day 1 had been basic drills, running laps, climbing obstacles, weapon maintenance. Everything done in 1.6G. Owen finished first in every exercise. Braun's face grew darker with each passing hour. Day 2 brought combat training, hand-to-hand fighting techniques, tactical positioning, defensive maneuvers. Owen partnered with Drax for sparring. The young Horvathi was stronger than he looked, but the gravity wore him down fast. Owen won every round without meaning to. Braun watched from the sidelines with those calculating amber eyes. Day 3 was when things changed. Full combat gear, Braun's voice cut through the morning formation. 50-kilometer march, standard coalition equipment plus emergency supplies. You have 60 seconds to suit up. Move. The barracks erupted into controlled chaos. Owen pulled on the tactical vest, clipped the equipment belt, shouldered the massive pack. The weight settled across his body like a comfortable blanket, heavy but distributed properly. The boots were good quality, broken in just enough. Other recruits struggled with their gear. Scylla, the 4-armed Kyrian, had to use all her limbs to lift her pack. Ren, the Saltine, was already breathing hard through his apparatus. A medical officer moved through the ranks, attaching monitoring devices to the recruits who looked ready to collapse. "Hayes," Braun appeared in front of him. "You'll take point, set the pace for everyone else." "Yes, Sergeant." They marched out into the main corridor. Owen kept his steps measured and even. Behind him, he could hear the other recruits struggling. Someone was crying. Several were cursing in languages he didn't understand. The sound of mechanical exoskeletons whirring filled the air as aliens activated assist devices just to keep moving. At the 10-kilometer mark, Braun called a water break. Owen drank from his canteen and looked back. The formation was a disaster. Half the recruits were using walls for support. Drax had some kind of leg brace active, blue lights pulsing along the metal frame. Scylla's breathing apparatus was fogged up. Ren was being carried by two other Saltine. "Hayes, how are you feeling?" Braun asked. "Fine, Sergeant." "Fine." "Yes, Sergeant, a bit warm but fine." Braun's jaw clenched. "Double time from here. Everyone keeps up or gets left behind." The next 40 kilometers were brutal. Owen increased his pace, boots ringing against metal floors. The corridor seemed endless, stretching through section after section of the massive station. Behind him, recruits fell out of formation. Medical teams picked them up and transported them to the infirmary. By kilometer 30, only 12 recruits remained. By 40, just 6. Owen, Drax with his exoskeleton, Scylla barely conscious, and 3 others Owen didn't know well. The finish line appeared ahead, marked by a holographic banner. Owen crossed it and immediately turned to help Scylla, who collapsed the moment she stopped moving. Drax made it across and his exoskeleton automatically deactivated. He crashed to his knees. "Time," Braun shouted. "Hayes, time to completion." 4 hours, 18 minutes, Sergeant. Standard completion time for this exercise is 6 hours. You finished an hour and 42 minutes early. Braun walked in a slow circle around Owen, while carrying the same weight as everyone else, in the same gravity, without assistance. "Yes, Sergeant." "Are you enhanced?" "No, Sergeant." "Cybernetic implants?" "No, Sergeant." "Then explain it." Owen thought about how to answer. Back on GJ-1214C, workers hauled ore through tunnels for entire shifts. His father used to carry 200 kilos on his back through passages, where the gravity pulled at nearly 2.6 G. Humans adapted. That's what they did. "Just used to it, Sergeant." Braun stared at him for a long moment. Then he smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. "Combat training, full contact. 1 hour, Hayes versus Drax. Full tactical gear, no assists." Drax looked up from where he was still kneeling. "Sergeant, I can barely stand." "Then you better learn fast, recruit." 1 hour later, Owen stood in the training ring. His muscles ached pleasantly from the march. Drax stood across from him, exoskeleton removed, breathing heavily. The young Horvathi outweighed Owen by at least 40 kilos and stood several inches taller. Reptilian strength was legendary across the coalition. "Begin," Braun called. Drax charged. Owen sidestepped, but the gravity made him slower than he wanted. Drax's fist caught his shoulder, spinning him around. Pain exploded down his arm. The Horvathi was strong, no question about that. They circled each other. Drax threw a combination, fast and practiced. Owen blocked the first 2, took the third on his forearm. He countered with a low kick that connected with Drax's knee. The alien stumbled. Owen pressed forward. Drax was stronger, but the gravity was killing him. Every movement cost the Horvathi energy he didn't have. Owen's muscles screamed, but they kept working. They were designed for this, built for it since childhood. 5 minutes in, Drax was gasping. 10 minutes, he could barely keep his guard up. 15 minutes, Owen swept his legs and the big alien went down hard. "Pin him," Braun ordered. Owen dropped, got an arm around Drax's throat, locked it in. The Horvathi thrashed but couldn't break free, couldn't generate enough force in the heavy gravity. "Yield," Owen asked quietly. "Yield," Drax gasped. Owen released him immediately and helped him up. "Good fight." Drax just nodded, too tired to speak. Braun stepped into the ring. "Interesting, very interesting." He turned to face the assembled recruits who'd been watching. "You all saw that. A human, a species known for being weaker than Horvathi, just dominated one of our strongest recruits. Anyone know why?" Silence. "Because strength isn't absolute, it's relative. Drax is strong on his homeworld. Hayes is strong on his. But here, in this gravity, Hayes has the advantage. Braun looked directly at Owen, and he hasn't even begun to struggle yet. Owen felt a chill run down his spine, despite the sweat soaking his uniform. "Night maneuvers," Braun announced. "Solo navigation exercise, full combat load. Owen, you're first. The gravity will be set to 2.0. Murmurs ran through the assembled recruits. 2G was considered extreme, even dangerous for most species. "Is that safe, Sergeant?" Dr. Yana, the Tyrellian medical officer, stepped forward. "It's within regulation parameters for short-duration exercises. Hayes, you have any objections?" Owen thought about the deep shafts back home, where gravity measurements hit 2.6 on bad days, where miners worked anyway because the bills needed paying and families needed feeding. "No, Sergeant." "Good, you launch in 20 minutes. Dismissed." As the recruits filed out, Owen saw Braun watching him through the window of his office. The drill sergeant pulled up a holographic display and started typing something. Drax appeared next to Owen. "He's researching you." "What?" "Braun, he's trying to figure out what makes you tick, why you're not dying like the rest of us." Drax rubbed his throat where Owen had choked him. "Be careful, friend. When Braun gets curious, bad things happen." Owen looked up at that office window, at the massive silhouette surrounded by glowing data. "I'm just doing my job," Owen said. "That's what scares him," Drax replied. Braun sat alone in his office long after the night maneuvers ended. The holographic displays cast blue light across his scaled face. He'd been reading for 3 hours now, and what he'd found made no sense. Owen Hayes had completed the 2G navigation course in record time. He'd returned barely winded, asked politely for water, and headed to the barracks without complaint. Dr. Yana had checked his vitals immediately. Heart rate elevated but not dangerously. Blood pressure normal. No signs of stress or strain. The human had walked through 2G like it was a light workout. Braun pulled up Hayes' personnel file again. The basic information was standard. Age 22. No prior military service. Volunteered for coalition forces 6 months ago. Scored high on aptitude tests. Nothing unusual. But there had to be more. Braun dug deeper, accessing homeworld records. The file listed Hayes' birthplace as New Brisbane, Mars Settlement Dome. A .38G colony. That made even less sense. Someone from a low-gravity world should be the weakest recruit here, not the strongest. He expanded the search parameters. Medical records, educational history, employment background. Most of it was sparse. Hayes had worked in mining operations since age 14. That tracked with the physical conditioning, but something felt wrong. Then Braun found it, a single line buried in the immigration records. Place of birth, Kepler Station, GJ1214C. Braun's fingers froze over the holographic keyboard. He opened a new search window and pulled up planetary data for GJ1214C. The statistics appeared in glowing text. Surface gravity, 2.3 G. Atmospheric pressure, high. Temperature range, extreme. Classification, hostile environment, mining colony only. Braun sat back in his chair. His amber eyes read through the details of life on GJ1214C. The entire economy ran on rare mineral extraction. Workers operated in deep shaft mines where gravitational anomalies could push local gravity even higher. Children grew up strong or didn't grow up at all. Physical labor wasn't just common, it was mandatory for survival. The human hadn't been showing off. He hadn't been trying to make anyone look bad. 1.6 G genuinely felt light to him. 2G was probably comfortable compared to what he'd experienced in those mines. Braun pulled up comparative physiology data. Most coalition species evolved on worlds between 0.6 and 1.2 G. Their bodies were optimized for those ranges. Going outside those parameters caused immediate strain. But humans, Earth humans especially, had spread across dozens of colonies with wildly different conditions. The data showed human settlements on worlds ranging from zero point 0.3 to 2.4 G, and humans functioned on all of them. Not easily, not without adaptation and training, but they could do it. Their bodies were built with enough flexibility to handle variations that would kill other species. A soft chime interrupted his reading. Incoming message from Dr. Yana. Sergeant Braun, I need to discuss Private Hayes' medical status. Braun opened a communication channel. The Tyrellian doctor's face appeared in miniature above his desk. What's wrong with him? Nothing, that's the problem. Dr. Yana looked troubled. I've been monitoring his vitals for 3 days. The 2G exercise should have caused significant cardiovascular stress. It didn't. His muscle tissue shows no micro-tearing beyond what you'd expect from normal exercise. His bone density is off the charts. Sergeant, this human is physiologically adapted to crushing gravity. I'm aware, I just found his homeworld records. Then you know he's operating well within his comfort zone. The training we're putting him through isn't training for him, it's a vacation. Braun felt something unfamiliar twist in his chest. Shame, maybe, or recognition of a mistake. He'd been trying to break Hayes with gravity, never realizing the human had grown up in worse conditions than anything this station could produce. What do you recommend, Doctor? Honestly, either increase the difficulty to actually challenge him or stop wasting everyone's time. The other recruits are suffering while Hayes coasts. Dr. Yana's image blinked out. Braun sat in silence thinking. His entire career was built on being the toughest drill sergeant in 3 sectors. He broke recruits down and rebuilt them stronger. That was his purpose, his identity. But Hayes didn't need breaking down. The human was already forged from harder materials than anything Braun had available. A notification appeared on his main display. Schedule for tomorrow's training. Braun had planned advanced combat scenarios, endurance tests, psychological stress evaluations, all designed to push recruits to their absolute limits. His finger hovered over the delete button, then he stopped. No, this wasn't about his pride. This was about preparing warriors for real combat. And in real combat, you used every advantage available. If Hayes could operate in high gravity without strain, that wasn't a problem to solve. That was an asset to exploit. Braun opened a new file and started typing. Training modification request. Authorization for variable gravity combat scenarios. Specialized equipment requisitions. He worked through the night, building a new program from scratch. The door chimed. Braun checked the camera feed. Hayes stood outside, still in his training gear. Enter. The human walked in and stood at attention. Up close, Braun could see he was younger than his file suggested, barely more than a juvenile by human standards, but his eyes were old, working eyes, the kind you got from hard labor and harder choices. You wanted to see me, Sergeant. Braun hadn't called for him. Why are you here, Hayes? Saw your light on, thought maybe you needed something. The human shifted slightly. Or wanted to talk. Talk. Drax said you were researching me. Figured you might have questions. Braun gestured to a chair. Hayes sat, though his posture remained parade ground perfect. GJ1214C, Braun said. 2.3G homeworld. Deep shaft mining. You started working at 14 standard years. Yes, Sergeant. Why didn't you list it in your file? I did, said I was from New Brisbane. That's where I lived before enlisting. But you were born on GJ1214C, grew up there. Hayes nodded. Moved to Mars when I was 19, worked dome construction for 2 years. The low gravity made everything feel wrong. Too easy. Kept dropping things because I'd expect them to weigh more. Kept hitting my head on door frames because I jumped too high. So you joined the military. Wanted to do something meaningful. Mining just makes rich people richer. Military helps people, protects them. Hayes looked directly at Braun. "Is that a problem, Sergeant?" "The opposite." Braun leaned forward. "I've been trying to break you with gravity. That was stupid. You're already adapted to conditions far worse than anything I can create here. Didn't feel like you were trying to break me. Felt like normal training." "Exactly my point." Braun pulled up the schedule he'd been working on. "I'm designing new protocols, variable gravity scenarios. You'll train other recruits how to function in high-G environments. Teach them techniques for moving, fighting, surviving when the world is trying to crush them." Hayes blinked. "I'm not a teacher, Sergeant." "You are now. Coalition forces operate across hundreds of worlds. Different gravities, different pressures, different conditions. Most species can't adapt fast enough. Humans can. You can. That makes you valuable." "What about the regular training?" "You'll do that too, but at appropriate difficulty levels." Braun adjusted the holographic display. 2.2G for standard drills, 2.5 for combat scenarios. We'll work up from there. For the first time since arriving, Hayes smiled. It was small but genuine. "That sounds better." "Dismissed, Private. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start actually training you." Hayes stood, saluted, and headed for the door. He stopped at the threshold. "Sergeant, thank you for figuring it out. Was getting worried I'd spend 3 months being bored." After the door closed, Braun sat alone with his thoughts. He'd learned an important lesson. Strength wasn't about dominating others. It was about recognizing potential and knowing how to develop it. Outside, stars wheeled slowly past the station windows. Somewhere out there, other humans worked in mines, on low-G moons in crushing depths. They adapted because they had to. Maybe that was humanity's real gift. Not strength or speed or intelligence, just stubborn, relentless adaptation. The willingness to survive anywhere, no matter the cost. Braun began drafting his report to Coalition Command. Subject: expanded high-gravity training protocols. Consultant: Private Owen Hayes. This was going to be interesting. Week 4 of training started like any other. Owen led morning drills while Braun observed from the control platform. The gravity was set to 1.9G today. Standard operating procedure now included variable conditions. Recruits were learning to adapt. Drax had stopped using his exoskeleton assist for basic exercises. Scylla could complete obstacle courses without collapsing. Even Ren, who'd struggled the most, had built enough strength to function semi-normally. Owen felt proud of their progress. The training schedule called for live fire exercises in the combat simulation zone. Owen's squad consisted of Drax, Scylla, Ren, and a Felnar scout named Torvin. They'd trained together for 2 weeks now, building cohesion and trust. Scenario 7, Braun's voice came through the comm system. Hostage rescue, mixed gravity zones. Enemy combatants are holograms, but the obstacles are real. Weapons are set to training mode. You have 20 minutes. Begin. The simulation zone doors opened. Owen led his squad through, weapon raised and ready. The zone was massive, designed to look like an urban environment. Buildings rose 3 stories high. Vehicles were scattered across streets. Smoke machines added atmospheric haze. They moved in formation through the first sector. Gravity felt normal here, maybe 1.5. Comfortable for everyone. Owen checked corners while Drax covered their 6. Scylla used her 4 arms to manipulate doors and barriers simultaneously. Torvin's enhanced senses detected heat signatures ahead. "Contact," Torvin whispered. 3 hostiles, 2nd floor, building ahead. Owen signaled the squad to spread out. They took positions behind cover. On his mark, they opened fire. The holographic enemies dissipated under sustained accuracy. Target practice paid off. They cleared the building and moved to the next zone. A holographic sign flashed. Gravity Zone 2G. "Slower pace," Owen ordered. "Conserve energy. Drax, take point. You're strongest besides me." They pushed through the heavier gravity together. The objective was visible now, a mock building at the far end marked with hostage indicators. Just had to cross 3 more zones. That's when the alarm started. Red lights flooded the training zone. A mechanical voice blared from speakers. Gravity malfunction. Zone 4 critical failure. Emergency PROTOCOLS engaged. Owen's comm crackled. All personnel evacuate immediately. Repeat, evacuate now. That was Braun's voice, but there was something in it Owen hadn't heard before. Fear. Squad moved toward exit Alpha, Owen started to say. Then he heard the screaming. It came from Zone 4, the section they'd bypassed. Owen looked at his squad. Stay here, that's an order. He ran toward the screaming. His boots felt like lead weights, the variable gravity shifting as systems went haywire. A holographic warning appeared in front of him. Zone 4 2.8G structural failure, do not enter. Owen ignored it and hit the emergency override on the blast door. It opened halfway and jammed. He squeezed through. The scene inside was catastrophic. The entire section had collapsed. Training equipment, scaffolding, weapon racks, everything had come down when the gravity spiked. 3 recruits were trapped under the debris. Owen recognized them from other squads. A Horvathi was pinned under a fallen beam, green blood pooling around him. A Kyrian had 3 of her 4 arms caught under twisted metal. A Saltine wasn't moving at all. The gravity here was crushing. Every step felt like wadding through concrete. Owen's muscles screamed in protest, but he'd felt worse, much worse. He reached the Horvathi first. It was a recruit named Cross, one of the bigger ones. Hang on, Owen said. Can't breathe, Cross gasped. Too heavy. Owen grabbed the beam pinning him and lifted. His back muscles ignited with pain. His legs shook, but the beam moved. Inch by inch, he raised it high enough for Cross to drag himself free. Get to the door, Owen ordered. Crawl if you have to. He moved to the Kyrian next. Her name was Trill. She was conscious but in shock, mandibles clicking rapidly. The metal trapping her arms looked sharp. Moving it wrong could sever them completely. Trill, listen to me. I'm going to lift this up. When I do, pull your arms out slowly. Understand? She clicked once, agreement. Owen positioned himself and heaved. The metal shifted with a horrible grinding sound. Trill yanked her arms free, 2 of them bleeding badly from cuts. Go, follow Cross. The Saltine was the worst case. He wasn't breathing. Owen checked for a pulse and found one, weak and irregular. Punctured lung maybe, or crushed ribs. The debris covering him weighed at least 300 kilos. The blast door groaned. Someone was forcing it open from the other side. Braun squeezed through, wearing a partial exoskeleton. Even with mechanical assistance, the drill sergeant moved like he was swimming through mud. Hayes, I ordered evacuation. Can't leave them, Sergeant. Braun looked at the Saltine, at all the debris, at the impossible weight of everything. His amber eyes met Owen's. Something passed between them. Understanding, maybe, or respect. Then let's work fast. Together they lifted. Braun's exoskeleton whined with strain. Owen felt something pop in his shoulder but ignored it. The debris shifted, moved, came free. Owen grabbed the Saltine and slung him over his shoulders in a fireman's carry. The added weight combined with the crushing gravity nearly dropped him to his knees. Nearly. His legs held. They had to. Braun cleared a path, throwing debris aside with mechanical strength. They made for the door. Each step was agony. Owen's vision started to tunnel. His heart hammered so hard it felt like it would burst. Almost there, Braun said. Keep moving. The door was 10 meters away, then 5, then right in front of them. They stumbled through into normal gravity. Owen collapsed immediately, still protecting the Saltine's body with his own. Medical teams swarmed them. Dr. Yana appeared, her hands moving with practiced efficiency. This one's critical, she said, checking the Saltine. Punctured lung, multiple fractures. Get him to surgery now. They loaded the Saltine onto a stretcher. Cross and Trill were already receiving treatment. All three would live. Dr. Yana turned to Owen. Let me see that shoulder. It's fine. It's dislocated. Sit down before I have you restrained. Owen sat. The adrenaline was wearing off, replaced by waves of pain. Dr. Yana manipulated his shoulder with quick, precise movements. There was a loud pop and sudden relief. Muscle strain, minor tears, severe bruising. You'll be on light duty for 3 days. She looked at him with something approaching awe. You walked into 2.8G without assistance. That should have killed you. Grew up in worse, Owen muttered. Braun stood nearby, the exoskeleton hanging loose on his frame. He'd burned out 2 of its servo motors. Hayes, that was the stupidest, most reckless thing I've ever seen. Yes, Sergeant. It was also the bravest. Braun's voice softened. You saved 3 lives today, lives that would have been lost without your intervention. That's what coalition warriors do. They protect those who can't protect themselves. Over the next hour, the full story emerged. A power surge had caused the gravity regulator to malfunction. Safety protocols had sealed the zone, but the 3 trapped recruits would have died waiting for the gravity to normalize. Equipment to safely extract them would have taken too long. That evening, Braun called a full battalion formation. Every recruit stood at attention in the main hall. The 3 rescued recruits were there too, bandaged but alive. Today, Private Hayes demonstrated exceptional valor under extreme circumstances, Braun announced. His voice carried to every corner of the hall. He entered a lethal environment without hesitation. He risked his own life to save his fellow recruits. This is the standard we hold ourselves to. This is what it means to serve. He turned to Owen, Private Hayes front and center. Owen limped forward, his shoulder throbbing despite the painkillers. For your actions today, you are hereby awarded the Coalition Star of Valor. Braun pinned a medal to Owen's chest. Wear it with pride. The battalion erupted in applause. Drax was cheering loudly. Scylla clicked all 4 hands together. Even recruits Owen didn't know were shouting his name. Owen stood at attention, face burning with embarrassment. He hadn't done anything special, just what needed doing. That's all it was. But looking at Braun's face, at the respect in those amber eyes, Owen realized something had changed between them. The drill sergeant wasn't trying to break him anymore, wasn't testing him to find limits. They were on the same side now, finally. The evening after the rescue, Braun's office felt different. Less like an interrogation room, more like a place where equals might talk. Owen sat across the desk from his drill sergeant, shoulder still aching but manageable. How's the pain? Braun asked. Bearable, Sergeant. Drop the formality, we're off duty. Braun leaned back in his chair. It creaked under his weight. I owe you an apology, Owen. Owen blinked. Drill sergeants didn't apologize. That was like a fundamental law of the universe. For what? For the first 3 weeks of training. I was trying to break you because your competence made me feel inadequate. That was unprofessional and wrong. Braun's amber eyes were steady, honest. You didn't deserve that treatment. I thought it was just training. It was supposed to be, but I let pride get in the way. Braun pulled up a holographic display showing Owen's homeworld. The rocky, harsh surface of GJ1214C rotated slowly. Tell me about growing up there. Owen watched the planet spin. He hadn't thought about home in months. What do you want to know? Everything, what it was like, how you survived. So Owen told him. About the mining colony built into cavern systems where gravity pulled harder than anywhere else in Coalition space. About working 12-hour shifts hauling ore through tunnels where a wrong step could break bones. About his father teaching him to walk in 2.6G before he could even talk properly. We didn't have exoskeletons, Owen said. Couldn't afford them, so we just got strong. Had to. Weak people didn't last long. How young were you when you started working? 10. Light duty at first, sorting ore, running supplies, moved to hauling at 12, deep shaft work at 14. Owen flexed his shoulder experimentally. You learn to read your body, know when muscles are strained versus damaged, know when to push through pain and when to stop. That's advanced physiological awareness. Most species never develop it. Most species don't have to. Owen met Bron's eyes. Humans adapt. That's what we do. Put us on a low-G moon, we adapt. Put us on a crusher world, we adapt. We're not the strongest or the fastest or the smartest, but we're stubborn. Bron made a sound that might have been a laugh. I noticed. When you walked into that 2.8G zone, my first thought was that you'd be dead in seconds. Even with the exoskeleton, I could barely move. It was hard, Owen admitted. Hardest thing I've done since leaving home, but I've worked in worse. The deep shafts have localized gravity wells. You hit pockets where it spikes to 3G sometimes. You learn to feel them coming, avoid them if you can, push through if you can't. 3G, Bron's scales actually paled slightly. That would kill most species instantly. Kills humans too if they're not prepared. Lost my uncle to a spike zone. Heart just stopped. Owen's voice went quiet. That's why I joined the military. Tired of watching people die for minerals. Wanted to help people instead. They sat in silence for a moment. Outside the window, other recruits jogged past in formation. Training never stopped, even after crisis. Can I ask you something? Owen said. Go ahead. Why were you so angry at first, when I wasn't struggling? Bron considered the question. Because I built my entire identity on being the toughest warrior in the room. My people, the Horvathi, were known for strength, physical dominance. Then you show up, this human from a species we consider weaker, and you make everything look easy. It threatened my worldview. But I'm not stronger than you. In normal gravity, you destroy me in a fight. Maybe. But that's not the point. Bron gestured at the training grounds visible through the window. Strength isn't absolute, it's contextual. You taught me that. In high gravity, you have advantages I'll never have. In other conditions, I might have the edge. What matters is knowing how to use what you have. That's pretty philosophical for a drill sergeant. Don't spread it around. Ruins my reputation. The corner of Bron's mouth twitched, almost a smile. I want to ask you something. I'm redesigning the training protocols, making them more adaptable to different species' strengths. I need someone who understands how to push without breaking, someone who knows the difference between challenging and impossible. Will you help? Owen thought about it. He was still just a private, still had 8 weeks of basic training left. Isn't that above my rank? Probably, but rank and competence don't always align. Bron pulled up training schedules. You'd still complete your own training, but in your off hours, you'd work with me to develop new exercises. Help other recruits learn to function outside their comfort zones. Think of it as an apprenticeship. What do I get out of it? Knowledge, experience, and when you graduate, a recommendation for specialist training, maybe instructor school if you're interested. Owen had never thought about being an instructor. He joined to help people, sure, but he'd imagined doing that in the field, in combat. But watching his squad improve over the past weeks had felt good, really good. Seeing Drax complete exercises without assistance, watching Scylla's confidence grow, helping Ren push past limits he thought were absolute. Okay, Owen said, I'll do it. Good, we start tomorrow. Now get out of here and rest that shoulder. Owen started toward the door, then paused. Sergeant, thank you. For what? For figuring it out. For not staying angry. For treating me like a person instead of a problem. Bron's expression softened. You were never a problem, Owen. You were a challenge I wasn't ready for. My failure, not yours. Owen left the office feeling strange. Lighter somehow, despite the gravity pressing down. He'd spent his whole life being strong because he had to be, working because there was no choice. surviving because the alternative was death. But now, maybe, his strength could be for something more, could help others instead of just keeping himself alive. Back at the barracks, Drax was waiting. So, what did Bron want? To talk and to offer me a job. What kind of job? Owen explained about the training protocols, about working with Bron to help other recruits. Drax listened with all his attention. That makes sense, the Horvathi said when Owen finished. You're good at this, not just the physical stuff, the teaching part too. When you show me how to move in heavy gravity, you explain it in ways I can understand. Break it down into steps. Most instructors just demonstrate and expect you to figure it out. My dad taught me that way, said understanding why matters more than just knowing how. Smart human, where is he now? Still on GJ1214C, still mining, probably will be until he dies. Owen lay back on his bunk. He wanted me to stay, take over his crew, but I couldn't. Couldn't spend my whole life pulling rocks out of the ground. Does he understand why you left? I think so. Told me before I shipped out that everyone's got to find their own weight to carry. His was keeping the family fed. Mine was something else. Owen stared at the ceiling. Still not sure exactly what my weight is, but maybe helping people learn to carry theirs is part of it. Drax settled onto his own bunk. You saved 3 lives today. If that's not helping people, I don't know what is. Anyone would have done the same. No, anyone with your strength and training might have tried, but you succeeded because you knew your limits, knew exactly how much you could take and still function. That's not just strength, that's wisdom. Owen thought about that. Wisdom. It wasn't a word he'd ever applied to himself. He was just a kid from the mines who knew how to work hard. But maybe Drax was right. Maybe understanding your own capabilities, knowing when to push and when to back off, that was its own kind of intelligence. The lights dimmed for sleep cycle. Around the barracks, other recruits settled in. Scylla was practicing meditation breathing exercises. Torvin sharpened his claws with ritualistic precision. Ren reviewed tactical data on a personal display. They were all getting stronger, not just physically. They were learning to adapt, to compensate, to work together despite different capabilities and limitations. And Owen was part of that, not just as another recruit, but as someone who could help bridge the gaps between what different species could do. His shoulder throbbed, his muscles ached. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new lessons to learn and teach. But for now, in this moment, Owen felt something he hadn't felt since leaving home. Purpose. Week 12 arrived faster than Owen expected. The training battalion had transformed from a collection of struggling individuals into something approaching an actual military unit. Recruits who couldn't walk in 1.6G now handled 2.0 routinely. Teamwork had replaced competition. Adaptation had become second nature. Owen stood in formation with his squad, waiting for the final evaluation to begin. Drax looked confident, scales gleaming with proper hydration. Scylla had added muscle mass to her frame, exoskeleton noticeably thicker. Ren breathed easily without apparatus. Torvin's movements were precise and controlled. Bron walked down the line, inspecting each recruit with those sharp amber eyes. But there was pride there now, visible to anyone who knew how to look. These were his warriors. He'd helped forge them. At ease, Bron commanded. The formation relaxed slightly. Today is graduation day. Normally, this would mean ceremonies, speeches, handing out assignments, but we're doing things differently. A murmur ran through the assembled recruits. Admiral Kesset of the Coalition Fleet is here to observe. He wants to see if my training methods actually produce results, so he's arranged a little test. Bron's expression was unreadable. Final combat scenario, urban rescue operation. You'll be graded on speed, efficiency, and teamwork. Any questions? No one spoke. Good, one more thing. The scenario will be conducted at 2.0 G. Standard coalition gravity is 0.9. This is more than double that. Admiral Kesset wants to see elite warriors, not average soldiers. Show him what you've learned. Dismissed to staging areas. Owen's squad moved to their assigned prep zone. They checked weapons, adjusted equipment, ran through tactical protocols. Everything they drilled for 12 weeks. 2G for graduation, Ren said nervously. That's excessive. It's a test, Owen said. Admiral wants to see if we can handle extremes. We can. You can, Scylla pointed out. The rest of us are still adapting. Then we adapt faster, together. Owen looked at each of them. Remember what we practiced. Use gravity as a tool, not an obstacle. Heavy means stable. Stable means accurate shooting. Momentum is your friend, trust your training. Drax clasped Owen's shoulder. Listen to the human, he's kept us alive this long. The staging area doors opened. Their scenario zone was revealed. It looked like a bombed city. Buildings collapsed at odd angles, debris everywhere, smoke obscuring visibility, and somewhere in there, simulated civilians needed rescue. Scenario active in 30 seconds, the automated voice announced. Owen felt the gravity increase. His body compressed slightly, joints taking the familiar pressure. Around him, his squad adjusted their stances. They'd learned how, practiced until it became instinct. Begin. They moved in formation through the first sector, slow and methodical, no wasted movement. Drax took point, using his strength to clear obstacles. Scylla's 4 arms manipulated equipment and provided covering fire simultaneously. Torvin's enhanced senses detected heat signatures through the smoke. Ren coordinated their movements, his tactical mind seeing patterns Owen sometimes missed. First objective appeared on their HUDs. Civilian trapped under rubble, North Sector. They reached it in 4 minutes, a holographic figure flickering to simulate injury. Owen and Drax lifted the debris together, perfectly synchronized. They'd done this dozens of times in training. Scylla applied simulated medical aid while Torvin secured the perimeter. Civilian 1 secured, Owen reported, moving to Objective 2. Objective 2 was harder. Hostile contacts, holographic enemies that moved and shot back with training rounds. The heavy gravity made dodging difficult, but it also made cover more effective. They couldn't jump over obstacles, so they used them better. Owen's squad flowed through the combat like water. Drax drew fire with his heavy armor. Scylla flanked from unexpected angles with her multiple arms. Torvin picked off targets from concealment. Ren coordinated fire patterns that left enemies no safe zones. Owen held the center, adjusting tactics as situations developed. They cleared the sector in 8 minutes, 0 casualties. Objective 3 was at the far end of the zone, maximum difficulty. The route there took them through gravity transition zones, areas where the field fluctuated unpredictably. Careful here, Owen warned. Gravity can spike. They moved through carefully. When spikes hit, they braced and pushed through. When it dropped, they controlled their momentum. Every recruit knew how now, knew their own limits and capabilities. The final objective was a nightmare scenario. Multiple civilians trapped in a collapsed building. Hostile contacts surrounding the position. Limited time before structural failure. It required everything they'd learned. Drax Torvin suppress hostiles, Scylla with me on rescue, Ren coordinate. Owen gave orders without hesitation. The squad moved without question. It was chaos. Beautiful, controlled chaos. Drax's covering fire kept enemies pinned. Torvin's precision shots eliminated threats. Scylla and Owen worked together to extract civilians, four-armed efficiency meeting human determination. Ren's voice in their ears kept everyone synchronized. They reached the last civilian as the building started collapsing. Owen grabbed the hologram and ran, Scylla covering their retreat. The structure came down behind them with a grinding crash. All objectives secured, Owen reported. No casualties, requesting permission to exit scenario. Permission granted, came Braun's voice, pride clear in every word. Outstanding work. The gravity normalized, the smoke cleared, the scenario zone doors opened. Standing on the observation platform was Admiral Kesset. The saltine officer was ancient by coalition standards, scales weathered by decades of service. He descended to the training floor, flanked by aides. Gunnery Sergeant Braun, Kesset's voice was surprisingly strong. Your battalion has exceeded expectations. I've observed dozens of graduation exercises. This was the finest I've seen. Thank you, Admiral. The credit belongs to the recruits. Indeed. Kesset walked along the formation. He stopped in front of Owen. Private Hayes, I've read your file, quite impressive. That rescue during the gravity malfunction was particularly noteworthy. Just doing my duty, Admiral. Duty? Kesset seemed to taste the word. Tell me, Private, what made you walk into 2.8G without protection? You knew it could kill you. People needed help, sir. I could provide it. That's all the reason I needed. Kesset studied him for a long moment. Then he turned to address the entire battalion. You all came here as individuals from dozens of worlds, different species, different capabilities, different limitations, but you leave here as something more. You are coalition warriors. You have learned to adapt, to overcome, to work together despite your differences. His gaze swept across them. This is the future of our military, not strength alone, not technology alone, but the willingness to push beyond what you thought possible, to help those who need it, regardless of personal cost. He produced a data pad. Assignments have been posted. Some of you will join fleet operations, some ground forces, some specialist divisions. Each assignment has been carefully selected based on your demonstrated skills. Serve with honor. The formation was dismissed. Recruits rushed to check their assignments. Owen waited, letting the crowd thin. His orders finally appeared on his personal display. Advanced Combat Instructor School. Specialty: high-gravity operations. Assignment to begin immediately following graduation ceremonies. Drax appeared beside him, reading over his shoulder. Instructor School, they're fast-tracking you. Looks like it. You earned it. Drax showed his own orders. Fleet Marines, Heavy Assault Division. I'm going to miss having you watch my back. You don't need me watching it anymore. You're ready. Scylla and Ren joined them, comparing assignments. Scylla was headed to Special Operations, Ren to Tactical Planning Division. Torvin had orders for scout training. We're being split up, Scylla observed. That's how it works, Owen said. We learned from each other. Now we take that knowledge to different units, help more people. Braun's voice cut through the celebration. Hayes, my office. Owen found his drill sergeant standing by the window, looking out at the training grounds. You wanted to see me, Sergeant. One last time, Braun turned. You changed this place, Owen. Changed how I think about training, about strength, about leadership. You did the actual changing, Sergeant. I just showed up. You did more than that. You challenged assumptions I'd held for decades, forced me to adapt. Braun extended his hand. It's been an honor training you. Owen shook it. The Horvatha's grip was crushing, but Owen matched it. Equals. The honor was mine, Sergeant. One more thing, your promotion came through, effective immediately, your Corporal Hayes. Instructor positions require at least that rank. Braun pinned new insignia to Owen's collar. Wear it well. That evening, Owen's squad gathered one last time in the barracks. They shared stories, made promises to stay in touch, talked about the future with the nervous excitement of people about to start new chapters. Think we'll see each other again? Ren asked. Coalition's a big organization, Drax said. But not that big, we'll cross paths. When we do, Scylla said, we'll be better warriors than we are now. Stronger, more capable, because we learned from each other. Owen looked at them, these aliens who'd become his friends, his brothers and sisters in arms. They'd all grown together, adapted together, learned that strength came in many forms. Whatever happens, Owen said, remember what we learned here. It's not about where you're from or what your body can naturally do. It's about pushing past limits, about helping those who need it, about being stubborn enough to adapt when the universe tries to crush you. They raised glasses of various beverages in a toast. To adaptation, Drax said. To strength, Scylla added. To family, Ren contributed. To the future, Torvin finished. Owen clinked his glass against theirs. To all of it. Later, after the others had gone to sleep, Owen stood alone on the observation deck. Stars wheeled past the station's windows. Somewhere out there, his father was still mining on GJ-1214C, still hauling ore through crushing gravity, still strong in the way that really mattered. Owen touched the corporal insignia on his collar, thought about the recruits he'd soon be training, about the knowledge he'd pass on, about helping others learn to carry their own weight, whatever that weight might be. He'd left home looking for purpose, found it in the most unexpected place, not in combat or glory, but in teaching others to exceed what they thought possible. The gravity on Station Taurus 9 hummed steadily at 1.0 G Standard Coalition normal, comfortable for most species. But Owen knew better now, knew that comfort wasn't the goal, growth was, adaptation was, becoming more than you started as. He'd done that, they all had. And tomorrow, he'd help others do the same. The stars watched silently, infinite and patient. Owen smiled and headed back to the barracks. There was work to do.